Here we are listing the 9 most common mistakes that developers often make. And really, I'm not gonna lie, I've definitely fallen victim of some of these, and hopefully going over these today will help you not only identify them, but actually review and see if there's something that you're actually encountering yourself. Mistake number 1, lack of self-confidence. When it comes to writing perfect code, a new developer often feels nervous, and if you think that you're not good enough, if you're not able enough, that can create some serious issues later down the road. So a lack of self-confidence is one of the major mistakes many developers make, and it's something that's really hard to overcome. But really the best way to overcome lack of confidence is really put in the time, and you're constantly hearing me say it on this show, hands on keyboards and building real things that actually mean something to you. Again, we always like to emphasize making an impact as a developer, and that could mean making an impact at your job, but also making an impact on your life. Software development, technology, these are all things you can use to help solve people problems, to help solve problems you might be incurring on a daily basis. And really, to get confidence in software development is you have to really try and understand core concepts, write code yourself, read, watch videos, and just constantly be in a learning environment. But yeah, lack of self-confidence is something very, very common amongst many developers. But you know what? Mistake number 2 contradicts mistake number 1, which is confidence levels higher than usual. I usually see this in people really who are fresh out of boot camp, fresh out of college, maybe went through a few tutorials online, they built a few to-do apps or whatever the case is, and they're finally at a point where they're like, hey man, I'm ready to build the next Facebook. And it's actually great because it's almost like they think they know a lot, so their confidence is really high. And what we found is the more you learn as an engineer, the more you realize there's a lot you don't know. And some people fall into the category of like this, I like to say, being hard on themselves, because they really look at themselves like, I am not a good architect, I'm not a good developer, I'm not a good JavaScript or Java developer or whatever the case is, because they're comparing themselves to somebody who maybe developed the language from scratch or written multiple books. Meanwhile, somebody coming out of a boot camp, they might just be comparing themselves to what they were doing prior to the boot camp. And so sometimes you get some people in this field who have confidence, but it's at a level higher than what it usually should be. And you have to be cautious of these people because they'll make you feel, it's like a great salesperson. They'll make you feel like they got it, but they don't have the core concept or fundamentals behind it. So you might be giving them a task and just setting them up for failure. Mistake number 3, not focusing on web standards. Web standards have the purpose of helping developers in creating device-independent apps. Really, it gives you the structure to not mess up. There's people out there who are trying to create standards so we can have a better internet browsing experience. Many developers get annoyed by following them because they have this misconception that these web standards are just making their work difficult, or it's made by people who don't know what they're doing, and it's just not true. These web standards make such a difference. And usually, like, as web standards increase, you get better applications, more performant applications that can scale better, and you know, all the things you're looking for. So again, focusing on web standards is very important. Mistake number 4 is not testing on enough browsers. And I'm specifically talking about web development here, that this won't necessarily apply to mobile developers or any other category like that. But for web dev, back in the day when I started, you had to support IE, Chrome, Safari, and then Chrome really just took off and like took over, and now it seems to be like a lot of Chrome and Safari people, IE support's being dropped. But what I've noticed is it doesn't take too much, and there's a lot of great tooling out there where you can actually test your application on multiple browsers, because again, usually when you're launching a web app, you want as many users as possible, and you want to make sure you are providing a positive experience for those users. So just take the extra time and test it on multiple browsers, from Opera to things that are up and coming like Brave. There's so many different things. They're also leveraging like the Chromium tools, and they're built on things that are similar. So like to go ahead and take the extra step to actually test them on different browsers can really make or break the experience for all your users and really help expand your reach. Now, mistake number 5 is really for my entrepreneurs and the people who really want to create something from scratch. But I would say not ready to scale. In today's world of high speed development, startup accelerators, instant global reach, there's so many ways and so many different methods to pitch your MVP and to get out to the market as soon as possible. It's really a common goal for many, many companies. However, with this constant pressure to get yourself out, to get your MVP out there, it's causing good web development teams to often overlook a lot of issues, and scaling is one of those issues that they really take for granted. The MVP concept is great, but I mean, these days it's really pushed too far. Like, they'll tell you MVP. Like, when I started, it was all about MVP. Like, what are 3 things this app does that you can be very proud that it does very well? Nowadays, it's like MVP is like, we want to be like a Facebook clone, but like be green instead of blue. That's a lot of features, it's a lot of functionality, and that's a lot of pressure on developers to not only write code, write quality code, but like write code that doesn't have a lot of bugs. Write code that's been thoroughly tested, that has integration tests, that really been battle tested by users who have actually been able to give it feedback. I mean, there's an entire process of launching an application, and far too often you'll see some of these companies, they get a little bit of momentum, something might go viral, and they just say go, 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 and they're just not ready to scale. Maybe they weren't in the cloud, maybe they were still on-prem, maybe they were on a certain budget or plan and they were not ready to scale to where they scaled. One of the great things about software development is the flexibility and the potential to scale, but you have to be able to put in the foundation and infrastructure to scale properly. Mistake number 6, which if you're still doing this today, I don't know what you're doing, but not developing for different screen sizes. Responsive design has been a topic in the past few years, and expansion of smartphones from all different sizes and resolutions. I mean, there's a new iPad every year, there's a new iPhone, there's a new Samsung, there's a new Pixel. All these devices are coming out with different screen sizes, different resolutions, have different features. And as a developer, you have to build mobile first and have everything be responsive from then on out. There are numerous patterns and practices for building responsive web applications. Each development platform has its own tips and tricks, of course. I think my most popular one, and still probably till this day, the Bootstrap, which is open source and free. I just remember, actually, funny story for me, my very first time working with Bootstrap was I actually made a change to the Bootstrap library. My team lead was like, you don't change Bootstrap, you don't change libraries. And I was like, lesson of, oh, that's how I knew. Anytime you brought in a library, you overwrote code in your own code base, not the library itself. So that's a fun story for you. But yeah, that's the one thing I've seen actually a few people do. They launch a website and they'll even use maybe some type of CMS or tool that doesn't support a responsive mobile design. And that's the thing too. You want to test it on multiple devices, multiple browsers, and you want to make sure it works across multiple things. Mistake number 7 is a little bit more in the architectural perspective, but not planning for portability. The assumption is the mother of all problems. I mean, many of us are in a job because we work at an organization that had a monolithic application, has grown and scaled to the point where they can finally invest in making their application modern, a little bit more modular, more flexible, more scalable, all the buzzwords that you love to hear sales tech people say in a meeting or in a pitch. But assuming that the production environment will match your local environment is really the ideal situation for developers, and be able to set up that infrastructure is usually determined by your leadership. And hopefully you land in an organization where they have some really smart technical people working with some really strong product and business analysts and all of those people, all the different types of stakeholders. And an ideal application setup, I mean, it should be like maintenance free. You should make sure your application can scale and run on load balance multiple servers in different environments. You should have a dev, a test, a stage, a production environment. You should be able to allow for simple and clear configurations, possibly maybe in one configuration file, or maybe you have like a template or a tooling where you can make it easy for developers to make certain things moving forward. So you can kind of give them like a blueprint, what some people will call it. And then you really just want them in a situation where if they really need to rebuild it again, it's not a year project. Like, that's probably the one thing when I think about portability is, can I rebuild this microservice within 30 days to 60 days? And if it's more complicated than that, then it probably got too big and I wasn't thinking about portability soon enough. Mistake number 8 is incomplete input validation. I want to say many new developers make the mistake of thinking only HTML and JavaScript validations are enough for the user input validation. And you always do both client-side and server-side input validation. I mean, the reality is humans make mistakes. We're very good at making mistakes. And when filling in information such as mobile numbers, email addresses, I mean, I actually always yell at my keyboard when I feel like I'm saying and thinking something and then the keyboard does not type that. Or something I've entered 100 times, but I still fat finger it and end up not entering my email right or whatever the information it's asking for. See, the problem here is relying on client-side validation because it can easily be bypassed. I mean, if you're just a semi-decent tech person, you can figure out how to disable the JavaScript and boom, you get past that validation. And if you don't have any server-side validation, if you're somewhat of a insider threat or, you know, penetration tester, or you just have any type of cyber information security skills, you could probably do something as simple as a SQL injection. And that is something where you can really avoid as a developer if you just do both client-side and server-side input validation. And that leads me into mistake number 9, which will wrap up this episode. And we might have to do a part 2, guys, because as I'm doing this, I'm thinking of others that are coming to mind. But documenting your code, or mistake is not documenting. I cannot tell you how many incomplete readmes that I've had to look at and ask 100 different people to figure it out. How I've been in organizations that have 5 different documentation tools, but all of them are stale and seems like no one is using them. Or you've been at the organization where everything's in SharePoint, everything's in Word doc, it's in folders and Finder. However, I don't understand the organization of the folders. Or maybe something is both in a team A and a team B, but where do I go to find this document? I mean, documentation has levels to it. There's documentation within the code itself, like your methods, your code itself should be self-documenting. You should be writing comments if you need to add comments to help people, leaving people to-dos in the code if there are to-dos. And really what I'm trying to say is just make it easier for the next developer to pick up the task, because that's really the goal of documentation. Alright guys, well, that's all I got for you today. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to see a part 2, you know where to find me. Make sure to hit that like button, hit subscribe, make sure to leave a review on the podcast. Check us out over at the podcast, of course. And yes, more content coming soon. We're trying to come at you as fast as you can with much content at high quality rate. And that's all I got for you, man. We out. Peace.